Hey everybody, I just got off the phone with a student who asked me a really good question, and I figured I would kind of come on here and just ad lib a little bit on the topic because I think it's something that is worth putting out in the universe. So he asked me basically in TLDR form, what is even the point of the Kutastha? You know, he has seen the Kutastha and it hasn't changed his life, and he wants to know, is this the end, or what do I do from here, and that is a really good and really mature question to ask, actually. Most people, when they come to me, all they're worried about is, how do I see this kutastha, how do I hear these sounds, how do I feel this bliss, and they just get wrapped up in that. And the truth is that none of those things are really an endpoint. you know. It seems like everybody that comes to Kriya Yoga, they kind of have this little Kriya checklist, and they feel like they need to check all the boxes. And if they check all the boxes, that everything will be done, and that's it. And it's a little more nuanced than that, unfortunately. Um, and it's funny because these experiences, they're through Yogananda's language, they are kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of built up to be more than they actually are. You know, um, he paints a picture with his language and the poetic way that he speaks and the devotional way that he speaks that isn't really realistic, and that's something that I struggled with for a long time and something that I had to talk to my teacher with a lot. And it took me a long time to kind of come to terms, with the reality of the situation, which is that, these things are really more the beginning of the trailhead than they are, the end of the trail. Um, and at the same time, none of these things are necessary, believe it or not. You don't have to see the Kutastha. You don't have to hear the Om sounds. You don't have to get Kachari. You don't have to feel bliss. Like, you can still get a full 100% awakening without any of those things. You can look at someone like Ramana Maharshi. He never once spoke about the Om vibration or the Kutastha or bliss or any of that stuff. Matter of fact, he dismissed most most yoga in general. Um, so it. I guess the path I really kind of want to lay out here is that there's kind of like two different paths that we go down, in our sadhana, right? And you can choose to specialize in one path or the other, or you can go down in both. Either way, you can't go down one without at least somewhat going down the other, right? And that's the fact that you kind of have a path that's like the awakening of your nervous system. Some people would say Kundalini, prana, whatever you want to call it. And then you'd have the other path, which is like the awakening of the mind, of consciousness, whatever. And you can think of more something like, self-inquiry or, Zen or something like that, that's usually more along those lines. And you can choose to go in either of those paths, or you can go down them both at the same time. And you're always going to get a little bit of the other either way. So where does this kind of fit for us in Kriya Yoga? So all of these experiences that you hear about, they're on the awakening of the nervous system side of things, right? And I've posted videos in here before, like explaining what the Kutastha is. You can go back and view that if you would like. I go a lot more deep into this discussion, but suffice to say that, through practicing Kriya and working on your nervous system, um, you wind up increasing the prana or the energy, whatever you want to call it, to the point that it literally functions as like a form of distortion to your brain, to your senses. You know, when I'm seeing something right now, like I'm looking at my screen as I'm recording this, and you know, I'm not actually seeing the screen. My eyes see the screen, but then they translate that vision into an electrical signal, which is passed back to my brain. and then my brain decodes that signal and presents to me what I'm seeing here, right? So I'm not directly seeing this, I am seeing a decoding. You can think of it like an MP3. The artist, when they're recording the song, they're recording the song and then it's being digitized. It's being encoded into a digital electrical signal. And then when that song is played back, it reads that signal, decodes that into sound again, and presents the sound to your ears through your headphones. You know, it's just like that. Your nervous system does the same exact thing. And just like you can introduce distortion into an electrical signal, say if I had a pair of wired headphones and I put something next to it that was putting off a lot of noise and distortion, that distortion would get picked up in the wire and it would come across as a sound that is not really a part of the recording. That's kind of what we're getting at here with the kutastha and with the own vibration and even the feelings of bliss, right? You're generating so much energy in your central nervous system that it is effectively starting to get picked up by your brain. It's at the right power and the right frequencies to be picked up and translated into visions, into sounds, into feelings, even into smells or tastes. You get into things like the Amrita and stuff like that there. All of these things are part of your awakening of your central nervous system. And that's not a bad thing, right? I don't want you to think that I'm, kind of poo-pooing on all this stuff, because I'm not. I'm just kind of like saying what the reality of the situation is here, and I speak to many people. I have a lot of students. I have some students that only hear the sounds but don't see the light. I have some students that only see the light and don't hear the sounds. And what do they both have in common? They both fail to appreciate what they have and obsess over the thing they don't. So the person that can see the light but can't hear the sounds is telling me, I don't even care about the light. I just want to hear the sounds. I'd give up the light to be able to hear the sounds. And the person that can only hear the sounds can't hear the lights, telling me the opposite. I don't care about the sound. I can get rid of it any day. I would trade it for the light any day. You know, Neither of them are happy with where they're at because they haven't completed their Kriya checklist and they're obsessing about that, and they're not appreciating what they have. Now, if that experience of sound or that experience of light in and of itself was the end point, they both would be happy and they would be content with their practice. They wouldn't still be searching for something else. And someday when they go and they check that other checkbox, they're still going to be discontent, because they may have those, you know, awakening of nervous system, check boxes done, but they still have a long way to go on the awakening of a consciousness, right? Um, so the thing I also want to say here is that awakening your nervous system is a powerful tool for helping you to be able to awaken your consciousness as well, right? Because it is supercharging your brain, supercharging your central nervous system, supercharging your ability to focus, to the point that you can start actually really paying attention and, seeing the reality of what is and what is not, right? One thing that disturbed me for a long time, and I went through a lot of, I almost would call it grief because of this, right? Was when I realized that all of these, all of these experiences come and go, just like everything in the external world comes and goes. You know, we've heard so much about these experiences and how wonderful they are and how they're supposed to be this endpoint in and of themselves. But then you realize that they also come and go and they change and they're never the same one day to the next. You're never going to see the same light twice. You're never going to hear the same exact sound twice. Every day is going to be unique. And even when you're looking at it, it's not like it's frozen and stuck in time. It's moving and it's flexing and it is, the sounds are changing and wavering and, it does what energy does. Energy is, it never sits still. It's always moving. It's ever changing, exactly as these experiences do. Right. But once you start getting to the point that you can start analyzing that, you can start looking at your life and really seeing what changes, what doesn't, what is that one thing that doesn't change, and that thing is just as much with you when you're meditating as it is when you're not, you know. it helps you to start being able to really distinguish, you know, what is true from false. I hate to use those words, but you get what I'm saying, right? What is permanent versus what is impermanent, you know? It really helps to kind of propel you down that path. You know, if you really want to get to that point of liberation, moksha, nirvana, whatever you hear, it's the awakening of consciousness side of things that is the path towards that, right? So we don't want to just go down all one side and forget about the other. You know, we kind of have to pay a little bit of attention to the other. You know, and this, I think, more important than anything else is where having, you know, a teacher or a guru or whatever you want to call it really comes in handy, you know, because they can help kind of guide you as an individual mind, you know, they can kind of help guide you through that, you know, that kind of process there. So I know it's a lot to unpack, you know, and it's probably a perspective that you've never heard before, and you may not like it. You may find some resistance to it, you know, most likely you will. And that's exactly the reason why I felt like this was worth putting out there. You know, it's another angle to look at things for, and I hope if nothing else that you at least just take some time to sit down and you know, kind of consider this angle of things. And, you know, that's about it. So. Till next time.